The catastrophe, mistiming claims or withdrawals. Claim Social Security too early while working? Earnings tests reduce benefits. In 2026, $1 withheld for every $2 over $24,480 pre-FRA. Poor sequence risk amplifies if markets dip post-retirement. Helen Morales, 58, from Houston, Texas, regrets claiming at 62. Needed income after a layoff, benefits reduced 25%, about $600 less monthly forever. With inflation, it's tight. Solutions? First, maximize contributions now. In 2026, 401k limits hit $24,500 plus $8,000 catch-up or $11,250 super catch-up ages 60 to 63, totaling up to $32,500 to $35,750. Employer matches, free money, capture all. Second, strategic Social Security. Delay, if possible, for 8% growth. Coordinate spousal benefits. Use tools like SSA.gov calculators. Third, Roth conversions in 50s or early 60s. Shift pre-tax to tax-free growth, reducing future RMDs. Fourth, bucket strategy. Cash for near-term, bonds medium, stocks long-term to mitigate sequence risk. Fifth, annuities for guaranteed income, partial to cover essentials. Sixth, health focus. Stay insurable for long-term care, cheaper in 50s. Seventh, plan taxes. QCDs from IRAs post 70 and a half for charity, offsetting RMDs. James Whitaker, 59, from Portland, Oregon, optimized. Maxed catch-ups, delayed Social Security planning, converted to Roth gradually. My projected income at 70 covers needs securely. Knowledge turned fear to confidence. These 5 shifts aren't optional, they're certainties awaiting everyone past 50. Healthcare costs explode, volatility threatens portfolios, taxes reshape wealth, debt anchors progress, income fixes permanently. But understanding transforms dread to strategy. Maximize HSAs and preventative care, bucket investments against volatility, convert strategically for taxes, avalanche debt ruthlessly, optimize contributions and claims for income. These aren't guarantees of wealth, they're defenses against poverty in retirement. The difference between thriving post-50 and merely surviving isn't luck or inheritance, it's awareness, adaptation, disciplined action. If this opened your eyes to post-50 realities, share with someone approaching it. Comment your biggest surprise. Which shift hit hardest? Subscribe for more empowering truths. Thanks for reading. Remember, retirement isn't about hoping for the best, it's preparing to handle the inevitable. Nancy Rivera, 52, from Orlando, Florida, faced this. I refinanced my home at low rates, but then used a HELOC for emergencies. Rates climbed, payments soared to $800 monthly. To keep up, I stopped maxing my 401k. Over 5 years, that cost me tens of thousands in growth and employer matches. So, how do you break free? First, prioritize high-interest debt elimination. The debt avalanche method. Pay minimums on all, extra on highest rate. Second, consolidate if possible. Balance transfers to 0% intro cards or personal loans at lower rates if credit allows. Third, build a no-debt buffer. Aim to pay off all non-mortgage debt by 60. Fourth, use windfalls wisely. Bonuses, tax refunds, inheritances to attack principal. Fifth, downsize expenses ruthlessly. Audit subscriptions, dining, and discretionary spending. Sixth, consider side income, gig work or part-time consulting to accelerate payoffs without dipping into savings. Seventh, protect against new debt. Build a 6 to 12-month emergency fund in high-yield savings. Tom Jenkins, 57, from Philadelphia, flipped the script. He consolidated $15,000 in cards to a 7% personal loan, cut lifestyle costs, and used a small inheritance for principal. Paid off in 3 years. Now that money flows to investments. I'm catching up fast. The key? Treat debt as the enemy of compounding in your final earning years. Eliminate it aggressively to free capital for growth. But as debt weighs heavy, the ultimate decider looms larger still. Shift number 1. Your retirement income sources enter a fixed, unforgiving phase. At exactly age 50, your financial future crystallizes around irreversible decisions on Social Security, pensions, if any, and required withdrawals, creating a fixed income reality that controls whether your money lasts 30 years or runs dry in 15. This isn't about market crashes or overspending. It's the biological and policy clock forcing income streams into permanence while expenses inevitably rise. The cornerstone? Social Security. For those turning 50 now, full retirement age, FRA, is 67, but changes ripple. In 2026, FRA reaches 66 years and 10 months for those born in 1959, settling at 67 thereafter. Delaying to 70 boosts benefits 8% annually past FRA, but claiming early at 62 locks in permanent reductions up to 30%. Maximum benefits rise too, in 2026 up to $4,152 monthly at FRA, or $5,251 if delayed to 70. Yet average benefits hover lower, around $2,071 after the 2.8% COLA in 2026. The terrifying truth? Most rely on Social Security for 40 to 50% of income, but it's designed as a floor, not full replacement. Pensions fade. Only about 15% of private workers have them. Instead, 401ks and IRAs dominate, with average balances for ages 50 to 59 around $600,000 to $1 million for savers, but medians far lower, at $250,000 to $450,000. Many have far less. What's occurring biologically? Earning peaks in 50s, but health or job shifts can force early retirement. Policy-wise, RMDs begin at 73 for those born in 1951 to 1959, forcing taxable withdrawals that bump brackets and phase out benefits.
Shift number 2. Your debt load becomes a permanent anchor that drags down retirement. After age 50, debt doesn't just linger. It morphs into a relentless force that compounds interest against you while your income potential peaks and begins to plateau. I'm not talking about manageable mortgages or occasional credit card use. I'm referring to a systemic buildup where high-interest consumer debt, especially credit cards, student loans carried into later years, and home equity lines, can consume 20 to 40% of your disposable income, leaving little room for savings growth. According to recent data from Experian and TransUnion, Americans in their 50s carry the highest average credit card debt of any age group, around $9,200 per borrower as of late 2025, with total household revolving debt often exceeding $11,000. This isn't random. It's driven by life stage expenses like supporting adult children, college costs lingering from Parent Plus loans, or unexpected medical bills before Medicare kicks in. Meet Michael Brooks, 55, from Denver, Colorado. He told me, "I always paid my cards in full until my 50s, then came helping my daughter with grad school, a new roof after a hailstorm, and some home improvements to downsize-proof the house. Suddenly, I was carrying $12,000 at 22% interest. I thought I'd pay it off quickly, but with rates staying high, the minimum payments barely touched the principal. Now it's eating $400 a month that could have gone to my 401k. Does this ring true? Federal Reserve data shows U.S. credit card debt topped $1.23 trillion in Q3 2025, with delinquency rates rising among those over 50 as fixed incomes loom. What's really happening? Interest rates on credit cards averaged over 22% in 2025, turning manageable balances into snowballing obligations. Compounding works against you. Pay minimums, and a $9,000 balance at 22% can take over 20 years to clear, costing more than double in interest.
The deeper issue? In your 50s, earning power often stabilizes or dips with job changes while expenses rise. Healthcare premiums, elder care for parents, or catching up on home maintenance. Student debt persists too. Borrowers aged 50 to 61 hold some of the highest averages, around $46,500 per recent reports. Home equity loans, used for renovations or debt consolidation, add secure debt that must be managed carefully. The scariest part? Debt accelerates sequence of returns risk. Forced withdrawals from retirement accounts to service debt during market dips lock in losses permanently. Or worse, high payments force reduced contributions just when catch-ups are available. Yet, as investments swing, a stealthier threat emerges in your tax bill. Shift number 3. Your tax landscape shifts dramatically and permanently. Turning 50 triggers a cascade of tax changes that can erode 20 to 30% of your wealth if ignored. It's not just higher brackets, it's a fundamental rewrite of rules around retirement accounts, deductions, and income sources. The IRS data shows that taxpayers over 50 pay an average of 15% more in taxes due to phase-outs and required distributions. With 2026 updates from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act sunsetting, brackets could rise, hitting retirees hard. Emily Carter, 51, from Boston, learned this the hard way. I maxed my 401k pre-tax thinking I'd save on taxes now. But at 50, my income pushed me into a higher bracket and I owe $8,000 more yearly. Plus, future RMDs will tax me even more. According to Investopedia, most retirement income, Social Security, pensions, RMDs, remains taxable, and timing matters. What's occurring? Catch-up contributions change. In 2026, high earners, over $145,000, must make them Roth-style, losing upfront deductions but gaining tax-free growth. Standard deductions rise to $16,100 for singles, plus $2,050 for over 65, but phase-outs for itemized deductions kick in sooner. Social Security benefits become taxable if combined income exceeds $25,000 single, $32,000 joint, up to 85% taxed. State taxes vary. Some, like Florida, have no income tax, while California taxes retirement income fully. RMDs start at 73, forcing withdrawals that bump brackets. The real crisis, many ignore Roth conversions in their 50s, when lower brackets allow tax-efficient shifts. Kevin Wright, 54, from Phoenix, converted nothing. Now my RMDs will push me into 24% bracket, thousands lost yearly. How to navigate? First, accelerate Roth conversions in low-income years, paying taxes now at lower rates. Second, maximize catch-ups, $8,000 for 50 to 59 in 401ks, total $32,500 in 2026. Third, use qualified charitable distributions, QCDs, from IRAs to reduce taxable income. Fourth, relocate if possible. States like Texas or Nevada offer retiree tax breaks. Fifth, claim senior deductions. New $6,000 for over 65 in 2025, potentially more in 2026. Sixth, harvest losses annually to offset gains. Angela Rodriguez, 57, from Dallas, converted $50,000 yearly to Roth, claimed deductions, and moved to a low tax state. My effective rate dropped 5%, saving $10,000 annually. But as taxes bite, an even heavier burden weighs on your shoulders, debt that refuses to budge. At 50, your portfolio doesn't just fluctuate, it enters a high-stakes phase where market swings can permanently derail your plans. Scientists and financial experts call this sequence of returns risk, where poor performance early in retirement or pre-retirement compounds losses you can't recover from. Research from J.P. Morgan shows that retirees facing volatility in their first 5 years can see their nest egg depleted 20 to 30% faster than expected. By 50, your time horizon shortens, making recoveries from downturns like the 2022 market drop harder. David Lee, 53, from Atlanta, knows this firsthand. I was all in stocks, chasing growth like in my 30s. When the market tanked in 2025, my $500,000 portfolio lost 25%. I sold low to cover bills, locking in $125,000 in losses. Now, at 53, rebuilding feels impossible. Data from the Urban Institute highlights that older workers near retirement are hit hardest by volatility, especially without diversified strategies. Here's the science. As you age, your human capital, earning potential, declines, so portfolio risks amplify. Inflation, now hovering at 3%, erodes purchasing power, forcing riskier investments for growth, but volatility spikes with events like recessions or geopolitical tensions. Target date funds help, but many over 50s stay too aggressive, with 60% equity exposure when 40 to 50% is safer. Bonds, once stable, now fluctuate with interest rates. A 1% rate hike can drop bond values 5 to 10%. The scariest part? Psychological biases kick in. Fear of missing out leads to chasing hot stocks, while loss aversion causes panic selling. Studies show investors over 50 underperform the market by 2 to 3% annually due to emotional decisions. Lisa Patel, 56, from New York, tried timing the market. I pulled out during a dip, waiting for the bottom. It rebounded without me, costing $40,000 in gains. Solutions? First, rebalance to a conservative mix, 50 to 60% stocks, 30 to 40% bonds, 10% cash or alternatives by 50, adjusting annually. Second, use bucketing, short-term needs in cash, 2 to 3 years, medium in bonds, long in stocks to weather volatility. Third, dollar-cost average withdrawals. Don't sell in downturns, have a cash buffer. Fourth, consider annuities for guaranteed income, shielding part of your portfolio. Fifth, work with a fiduciary advisor for stress testing. DIY often fails in volatile times. Sixth, hedge with diversification. Include international stocks, real estate, or commodities to reduce U.S.-centric risks. Robert Kim, 58, from Los Angeles, embraced this. He shifted to 55% stocks, built buckets, and added an annuity. During last year's volatility, my portfolio dipped only 8% and I slept fine. Embrace volatility as normal. Manage it, don't fear it. Take Maria Gonzalez, 52, from Miami, Florida. She shared her story with me. I was fit, ate well, exercised daily, but at 51, a routine checkup revealed pre-diabetes. Suddenly, my insurance premiums jumped 25%, and I was paying $500 monthly for medications and specialist visits. I ignored it at first, thinking Medicare would cover everything at 65. Now at 52, I've already shelled out $15,000 out of pocket this year alone. Sound familiar? Research from the Healthcare Cost Institute indicates that average annual healthcare spending per person jumps from about $6,000 in your 40s to over $11,000 by your 50s, nearly doubling due to increased screenings, preventive care, and early onset issues like arthritis or hypertension. What's really happening? Your employer-sponsored insurance, if you have it, often shifts more costs to you via higher copays and deductibles, averaging $1,500 for individuals and $4,000 for families in 2025. If you're self-employed or between jobs, marketplace plans under the Affordable Care Act can cost $800 to $1,200 monthly without subsidies for someone in their 50s. Long-term care needs creep in too. By 50, you're more likely to need coverage for potential nursing home stays, which average $100,000. Take Maria Gonzalez, 52, from Miami, Florida. She shared her story with me. I was fit, ate well, exercised daily, but at 51, a routine checkup revealed pre-diabetes. Suddenly, my insurance premiums jumped 25%, and I was paying $500 monthly for medications and specialist visits. I ignored it at first, thinking Medicare would cover everything at 65. Now at 52, I've already shelled out $15,000 out of pocket this year alone. Sound familiar? Research from the Healthcare Cost Institute indicates that average annual healthcare spending per person jumps from about $6,000 in your 40s to over $11,000 by your 50s, nearly doubling due to increased screenings, preventive care, and early onset issues like arthritis or hypertension. What's really happening? Your employer-sponsored insurance, if you have it, often shifts more costs to you via higher copays and deductibles, averaging $1,500 for individuals and $4,000 for families in 2025. If you're self-employed or between jobs, marketplace plans under the Affordable Care Act can cost $800 to $1,200 monthly without subsidies for someone in their 50s. Long-term care needs creep in too. By 50, you're more likely to need coverage for potential nursing home stays, which average $100,000 annually but aren't covered by standard insurance. And don't forget inflation. Medical costs rise 3 to 5% yearly, outpacing general inflation. The real problem? Many in their 50s underestimate these costs by 50% or more, leading to rated retirement accounts. John Ramirez, 55, from Chicago, followed old advice. He focused solely on 401k contributions, ignoring health savings. When his wife needed unexpected surgery at 53, they withdrew $20,000 from retirement funds, incurring penalties and taxes. "It set us back years," he said. "The stress alone aged us." So what do you do? First, maximize health savings accounts, HSAs, if eligible. These triple tax-advantaged accounts let you contribute up to $4,150 individually or $8,300 for families in 2026, plus $1,000 catch-up if over 55. Use them for current expenses or invest for growth. Second, shop for supplemental insurance early. Long-term care policies are cheaper in your 50s, averaging $2,600 annually for couples versus waiting until 60 when premiums double. Third, prioritize preventive care. Annual wellness visits, free under most plans, can catch issues early, saving thousands. Fourth, build a dedicated healthcare emergency fund. Aim for $10,000 to $20,000 by 60, separate from general savings. Fifth, consider hybrid life insurance with long-term care riders for dual protection. Sarah Thompson, 54, from Seattle, turned it around. She started an HSA at 50, got long-term care insurance, and focused on wellness. Last year, when I needed knee surgery, my out-of-pocket was under $2,000. I feel secure now. The key? Accept that healthcare isn't a maybe, it's a certainty post-50. Plan proactively instead of reactively. But while healthcare drains your wallet, something even more volatile is brewing in your investments. Shift number 4, investment volatility becomes a retirement killer. Turning 50? The hidden financial traps that could ruin your retirement and how to dodge them. If you're already 50 years old, how should you plan the rest of your financial life? We live in an era where people are retiring later and living longer, often into their 90s or beyond. That sounds like a blessing, right? More time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, travel, spend with grandkids, or pursue hobbies. But here's what keeps me up at night. Too many people in their 50s are trapped by outdated financial advice that prioritizes short-term gains over long-term security. Think about these questions for a moment. You want to splurge on a family vacation, but you hold back because you're terrified of dipping into savings. Your portfolio dips in a market swing and you panic sell, locking in losses. You keep paying high-interest debt while ignoring tax-efficient strategies that could save you thousands. Does this sound familiar? We've been told our whole lives that after 50, we should max out every retirement account, avoid all risks, and live frugally to stretch our nest egg. But here's the shocking truth. Once you turn 50, most of these rules do more harm than good if not adapted to your changing reality. Today, I'm going to share 5 inevitable financial shifts that happen to every single person after 50. These aren't maybes or risks, they're certainties driven by economic, policy, and life stage changes. And the number 1 shift? It controls whether you spend your retirement years in financial freedom or scraping by on minimal income. Studies from organizations like AARP and the Employee Benefit Research Institute show that 95% of Americans over 50 experience these 5 shifts, regardless of income level, past savings habits, or economic background. But here's the good news. Once you understand them, you can navigate them strategically instead of falling victim. So today, I'll reveal all 5 shifts and exactly how to handle each one. Please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps us create more content like this to empower your golden years. Now, let's dive in with shift number 5. Shift number 5. Your healthcare costs skyrocket uncontrollably. Once you hit 50, your body's vulnerabilities increase, but more critically, the U.S. healthcare system rewires how costs hit your wallet. I'm not just talking about higher premiums or occasional doctor visits. I'm referring to a complete explosion in out-of-pocket expenses that can devour 20 to 30% of your retirement savings if unprepared. According to Fidelity Investments, a healthy couple retiring at 65 in 2025 could face $315,000 in healthcare costs throughout retirement, adjusted for inflation, and that's a conservative estimate. But the real kicker? These costs accelerate dramatically after 50 due to pre-Medicare gaps, chronic conditions emerging, and policy changes like rising deductibles.